stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Ms. Martin?
Here.
Mayor Murphy?
Here.
Ms. Rostikowicz?
Here.
Ms. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Conway?
Here.
Mr. Gignac?
Here.
Mr. Leary?
Here.
7 present.
Thank you. Under special order of business, we have a spotlight on excellence for the Lowell High School Fine Arts Department. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mayor Murphy. Yes, this evening we are going to look at the accomplishments and the great work that's going on at the Arts Academy at Lowell High School. Recently, I had the opportunity to speak with Department Chair Dr. Sharon Clark about some of the honors and great things that our students have accomplished, and so this evening is to feature them. I open this up to Dr. Clark. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Sharon Clark. It's my pleasure to be here this evening to share with you a number of the accomplishments of the students and staff of the Fine Arts Department of Lowell High School. I've been the department chair now for 4 months, and it is my privilege to say what a talented group of teachers and students we have in that department. So I'd like to share with you a little bit of the background of the Fine Arts Department, as well as show you some of their work. I have some pictures as well as video clips that I think you will enjoy. The mission of the Fine Arts Department of Lowell High School is to give all of our students the opportunity to really develop their inner artist, whether it's in visual arts, performing arts, or the communication arts. The students there have a variety of opportunities each semester to grow and become creative and learn and develop their inner artist. We currently have a staff of 9 fine arts teachers that teach a variety of courses. And in addition to that, as part of the after-school part of the program, Sharon Bazance is our drama club advisor, and a little further on in the presentation, you'll see some of their work. And collaboratively and collectively, these teachers do tremendous, tremendous work with our students. It's wonderful to see the students grow even from the beginning of the school year to this point. In the first semester of this school year, we offered 30 fine arts courses. Many of them were multiple sections in the areas of communication media, dance, music, and visual arts. This allowed over 850 students to participate in fine arts courses in the first semester, which was approximately 29% of our student population. In addition to the fine arts courses we offer, as students reach their junior and senior year, they have the opportunity to focus more in the Fine Arts Academy. And in participating in the Fine Arts Academy, they have the opportunity to hone their performing and visual arts skills. In addition to the Fine Arts Academy, we have the Communications Academy, where the focus is the art of communication through digital photography, graphic design, or video production. What I'd like to share with you is just a brief glimpse. This was our January calendar. And as you can see, our department was quite busy. Every weekend, we had a variety of events going on. During the first week of January, Lowell High School had the honor of hosting the 54th Annual Northeastern District Senior Festival. Lowell High School has had the privilege of hosting it for the last 15 years, and it's sponsored by the Massachusetts Music Educators Association. About 1,100 students from 57 surrounding communities auditioned to participate in the chorus, concert band, jazz ensemble, and the orchestra. 450 students approximately auditioned for the chorus, where 204 students were selected. 338 students auditioned for the concert band, and 123 students were selected. So as you can see, it's a very competitive process to be a participant in this festival. I'm very pleased to say that we had 2 instrumental music students and 2 choral students that were accepted into the Northeastern District Festival. And here is a glimpse of the district-wide concert band in their performance at Lowell High School on January 8th. And as you can see, they clearly filled the Lowell High School stage, and the music was no less than glorious. The instrumental students that had the privilege of participating were Zachary Michaels, who was accepted as a timpani player, and William McAndrews on the euphonium. In addition, 2 choral students, Tyler Dumbrill and Darnell Kenny, were accepted into the district-wide concert chorus. And that was just a little excerpt from the Lowell High School Winter Concert, where the Lowell High School Band currently has over 70 members. Earlier in the school year, the marching band participated in the Massachusetts Instrumental and Choral Conductors Association competition, as well as the New England School Band Association competition, where they received bronze and silver medals, respectively. The following week, Lowell High School hosted the 11th Annual Mill City Show Choir Festival, where 11 show choirs from surrounding communities participated in what can only be described as a singing and dancing extravaganza. Again, you can see how talented the students of Lowell High School really are. As a result of their gracious hospitality in hosting that event, our students were invited to UMass Boston by the Associate Vice Chancellor of Enrollment, Dr. Lisa Johnson, to see the Chinese New Year celebration that was presented from students from the Zhejiang University of China. And it was a wonderful day for our students. They had a tour of the campus. They were treated to refreshments. They met the Fine Arts Department chair of the university. They enjoyed Chinese food, as well as the performance by the dance troupe. And afterwards, we had our picture taken with the group. It was a great day for our students and a great opportunity for them to see a university and speak with professors and discuss college life. And this is just a little picture of our concert chorus. They do a number of events throughout the city. Recently, Monday evening, we were singing for the police department. We've sung for a number of community events, and we're pleased to always be able to share our talent with the community. Following that, we had the Lowell High School dancers dance recital, their World Dance Tour. And here's a little excerpt. Again, you can see how truly talented the students are. The dance program has students participating that are beginners, have never taken dance before, right through to advanced students. The group that you just saw was actually Dance 1 beginners. Also, in addition to performing at the school, the dance ensemble, as well as the band students, have had the opportunity to go out to elementary schools and be part of their positive behavior management programs. Many of the schools have end-of-the-month activities for the students if they abided by the school community rules. And so Lowell High School students have had the opportunity to go be the reward and share their talents with the elementary schools throughout the city. January 25th, the Boston Globe Art Show winners were announced. Every year, for 62 years, the Boston Globe has hosted, along with the Art Association of Massachusetts, the Art Teachers Association of Massachusetts, the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards. Currently, our student work is on display in the Transportation Building in Boston, and our students that have won awards will be attending the awards ceremony on March 11th. Lowell High School the students of Lowell High School, were a part of over 1,400 individual entries that were submitted by over 6,500 students throughout Massachusetts. And I'm very proud and pleased to say that we had 70 entries from 48 students. And of those 70 entries, we had 24 individual winners that were submitted by 19 students. It's quite an accomplishment for our students. Each year, the students have gone beyond the previous year, and once again, our students surpassed their goal from the previous year with 4 gold key winners, 8 silver key winners, and 12 honorable mentions. And these are the students' names. They were invited to attend this evening. Excellent. And some of the staff that teach at the high school, Mrs. Sheridan is here. Thank you very much for coming. Again, the talent of the staff allows our students to grow as artists themselves. And so I'm very proud to represent that group. These are the honorable mention students. And then the next few slides are the actual student work I would like you to be able to see. The students that work was submitted were in the areas of drawing, painting, digital photography. Clearly, their work speaks for itself. A number of students that participated, it was their first time in an arts course, a first time in digital photography, or first time in drawing class. Their work speaks for itself. That's why I didn't really want to say too much while you're seeing it. This young man, his teacher is Mrs. Sheridan, and she had pointed out to me earlier on that he had never taken photography class before, and his work on the right was a gold key winner. And on the left was a silver key winner. And this is some of the work of the students from graphic design, web page design. As well as digital art. Finally, the month of January wrapped up with the Drama Club's production of The Crucible, and the only word to describe it was riveting. Dick Howe graciously blogged us and said the only thing he didn't like about the production that it went on for only one night. The very talented cast and crew participated in this presentation under the direction of Sharon Bizantz. And then coming up, we have a number of other events on the calendar. So again, I thank you. It's been my pleasure to share with you the hard work and talent and the commitment of the students and the staff of the Fine Arts Department of Lowell High School. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Madam Superintendent, Jan?
Thank you, Sharon. We all send you our best regards for the hard work done by all of your staff and all of your students. The visual representation tells us so much about the talents of our aspiring future artists of the United States and beyond.
Yes.
Thank you again. If there's no further discussion, we'll move on to the minutes portion of the agenda. We have approval of the minutes of the regularly scheduled meeting of Wednesday, February 1st, 2012. Move for approval by Ms. Ross-Sikowicz, seconded by Ms. Scott. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have permission to enter. Permission to enter for February 15th, 2012. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Community Training and Assistance Center Incorporated for $71,000 to amend the existing contract to provide training to additional administrators, teachers in the district on how to analyze conditions that help or hinder performance, find causes, and address those causes and increase student achievement. Funding is provided by the Race to the Top grant. To Club Z for $11,128 to provide supplemental educational services, SES tutoring to eligible students as required by Title I, No Child Left Behind. Funding provided by the Title I grant. To the Sylvan Learning Center for $22,056 to provide supplemental educational services to eligible students as required by Title I, No Child Left Behind. Funding provided by Title I grant. To the Professional Consultants of Effective Labor and Educational Training for $84,548 to provide supplemental educational services to eligible students as required by the Title I No Child Left Behind Act. Funding provided by the Title I grant. To Action Learning for $42,274 to provide supplemental services to eligible students as required through Title I No Child Left Behind. Funding again provided by the Title I grant. To the Delta T Group of Massachusetts Incorporated for $82,920 to provide contracted staff to Special Education Department to fill short-term openings at various locations in the Lowell Public Schools. Funding will be provided by the Special Education local funds.
Thank you. Any discussion on these items? Move for approval by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Ross-Sikowicz. Roll call, please.
Ms. Martin? Yes. Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross-Sikowicz?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Thank you. Next, we have one memorial tonight for Richard Brousseau, husband of the retired director of the School of Nursing program, Kathy Brousseau. Will you please rise in a moment of silence in darkened chambers? May you rest in peace. Moving on to unfinished business. We have the first item approved at the April 6th, 2011 school committee meeting. An overnight field trip request. The Lowell High School staff member, Dr. Julio C. de Cavallo, 2 additional Lowell High School professional staff members, chaperones, and 20 and no more than 40 students of the Portuguese class to travel to the Republic of Cape Verde, an island off the west coast of Africa, during February 2012 vacation. No school days will be missed and no substitute teachers are needed. There is no cost to the school department budget. The request permission for additional Lowell High School staff to attend is for Edward Rosemerick, Khalida Hakam, Elaine Ballas, and David Smith. What's the wish of the body? Move for approval by Mr. Leary, seconded by Mr. Conway. Roll call, please.
Ms. Martin? Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Next, we have approved at the December 21st, 2011 school committee meeting, Lowell High School students, 15 to 20 students, along with teachers, chaperones, Kendra Bauer, Deborah Fowler, and Thomas Thornton to travel to London, England, and Paris from Friday, February 17th, 2012, returning on Saturday, February 25th, 2012. They're all located in the continent of Europe. The total cost of the trip will be incurred by each student traveling. The cost for 2 substitute teachers will not exceed $200 and will be funded by the Lowell High School individual school budget. Request permission for additional Lowell High School staff to attend. Jen Bauer to replace Deborah Fowler. Move for approval by Mr. Leary, seconded by Mr. Gignac. Roll call, please.
Ms. Martin? Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz? Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Next, we have approved at the November 3rd, 2010 meeting, an overnight field trip request. Lowell High School teacher Michael Auer, along with no more than 40 current and former Latin Lyceum students and 6 chaperones to travel to Rome and Sicily during February vacation 2012. Students will not miss any school time. No substitute teachers are needed, and there is no cost to the school department. Request permission for additional Lowell High School staff to attend. Mary Beth O'Neill. Move for approval by Mr. Leary, seconded by Ms. Ross Sikowicz. Roll call, please.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Moving on to the motions portion of the agenda, we have a motion by Robert Gignac, request that the superintendent work with the Lowell High School school administration to realign the security guards and resource officer staff to consistently monitor the surveillance system in place. Seconded by Mr. Conway. Mr. Gignac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My motion is pretty straightforward. About a little over 10 years ago, the district made a substantial investment, hundreds of thousands of dollars, to put a security camera system at the high school with hundreds of cameras. And at the time, we had a higher number of security guards to watch these surveillance screens. Due to cuts over the years, we no longer have the same amount of security guards at the high school to physically watch these cameras. I just want to make sure that we're utilizing the tools we invested in to the fullest of their capacity. In 2006, we paid another $85,000 to upgrade the system, and unfortunately right now it's not constantly being monitored. I would just like to assist the staff to be able to properly monitor the premises. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gignac. Mr. Conway.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very quickly, I think it obviously is a good motion. It's something that we need to take a look at because, as my colleague said, there was a tremendous amount of investment that was put into that. And with that investment, it certainly made the high school a lot safer for staff and for students. And I think to take that and just kind of push it aside, and again, realizing that there's obviously economic problems that we have encountered, I think this might be a good idea to look perhaps to some of our partners so that we can maximize our resources. For example, I think the University of Mass has a program up there that I think we could perhaps tap into and see if we could get some of those students to come down as perhaps interns to take a look at those cameras, to man those cameras. Again, it's something that we have to take a look at and try to get a partner. If we can't afford it ourselves, maybe we can reach out to a partner that we can that will help us out in this area. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have a motion by Kristen Ross Sikowicz, the request to establish front page website links for free and reduced lunch enrollment in My NutriKids on the Lowell Public Schools and Lowell High School websites. Seconded by Ms. Martin. Ms. Ross Sikowicz.
Thank you very much, Mayor. These two tools were brought to bear before the school committee by Aramark at the beginning of the school year. And I understand that the free and reduced lunch enrollment was placed on the website. However, you had to really dig for it. And the second element for those parents that actually have to pay for, their child's lunch, there's another tool called My NutriKids, which, there's differing opinion as to convenience, but it's very easy to go on and drop money in your child's food account. Rather than sending off a check or cash each day or on a weekly basis, and parent doesn't wind up with these large bills because the cost has accumulated. So I'm proposing that both of these links actually be placed on the front page of the Lowell Public Schools website and also the Lowell High School's website. There is, for My NutriKids, there's a $1.75 convenience charge. However, you weigh that with the convenience, and I find it convenient myself paying for my children's lunch. So I did notice that Ms. Cormier was very gracious to put these two links closer to the front page. However, I did note that they weren't necessarily on the front page at this point, so I wonder if we can get that on the front page, but also if it can actually be put in the form of an icon, because obviously we have to accommodate those parents that don't necessarily have English as a first language. So a nice identifiable icon that parents can just click on and click right through to enroll their children into the free and reduced lunch program and also to pay for their children's lunch. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next motion, also by Kristen Ross Sikowicz, request that the school department coordinate with the Lowell Police Department to establish a formal policy of proper notification with regard to incidents in the vicinity around our district schools. Seconded by Ms. Scott. Ms. Ross Sikowicz.
Thank you very much, Mayor. This issue actually came up in the administrative updates that were forwarded to us by the superintendent at the end of the week last week. And this issue kind of raised a red flag for me in that I found it concerning that we did not have a coordinated policy with the Lowell Police Department identifying, the means of reporting if there's an incident surrounding our schools in those neighborhoods. And while common sense would deem that, you'd go into lockdown status if need be. However, I think it's really important that our police department notify our schools if there is an incident. And so I think overall, I think that it really should be a part of the city emergency management plan, because schools are, a part of that process. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this, and I appreciate the superintendent's effort going forward with working with the Lowell Police Department on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have a motion by David Conway. Ask the superintendent for an update plan on the choice of the distinguished alumni speaker at the Lowell High School graduation. Seconded by Mr. Gignac. Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Approximately 10 years ago, the high school developed a distinguished alumni program. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to honor individuals that have given back to the community, to the country, and and in some cases to the world. And when they start to take a look at the individuals, it is quite amazing to go to one of those events where you listen to 5 individuals each year that are honored and the accomplishments that they have actually made. And what's amazing about this is the fact that these are the people that walk the same corridors as our students right now. They've played in the same parks. They've gone to the same type of stores. They had humble beginnings like many of our students have had, and they certainly can relate to them. And to listen to their stories are extremely inspirational. And when I first became a school committee person, I thought what a great honor it would be for the high school to have one of these distinguished alumni come and speak at graduation. And my colleagues agreed with me back a few years ago, and they passed that motion. And I at this point, I just wanted to find out who, and it's obviously a very exciting time, who would be that speaker and what the progress is on it, because many of these individuals that speak, again, they're world renowned in many cases. You have Dr. McCarthy, who spoke, was a plastic surgeon, and he was the one that actually developed that the Smile Train, which has great impact to the entire world. Herb Zakin, who was the president and CEO of the BJ Corporation. Another speaker was Kendall Wallace, the publisher and the chairman of the board of the Sun newspaper. We had George Duncan, who was Enterprise Bank, and if you take a look and you look at his story, which is quite amazing, that when he shared that with our students, and at this particular point, he has 20 different sites. He started that business back in the 80s when it was an economic downturn for not just the city, but also for the country. And he thought it would be an opportunity to help turn this city around, which obviously it did. And George Barakis, who is the pharmaceutical giant, one of the pharmaceutical giants of the country. So again, people like this, it's great to have them on stage talking to our students and relating some of the stories that they had in the same classroom. So again, I just wanted to get an update, and I think it'd be a good idea to let us know who that individual is, because I know there's a lot of planning that's involved with it.
Thank you. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Murphy. Yes, I received a memo and a phone call from Headmaster Rosemaric regarding next steps. He has been in touch with Brian Martin, former mayor and city manager, who works in conjunction, of course, with the Distinguished Alumni people. And Mr. Rosemaric is in the process of trying to determine, along with that cohort of people, the speaker for the graduation. And so by our next meeting, I'll keep you posted, and I would imagine we'd be able to announce or to have been in touch by our next meeting. So that's where we are in the process, Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. I think that's a great idea, because the fact is, these people, they're the ones that actually pick the distinguished alumni, so they're going to have all the contacts, they're going to have all the information available, and certainly can share that with the administration at the high school. So thank you for that update. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have a motion by James Leary, request the superintendent to work with the school committee, the administration, and school staff to develop and implement the district's 5-year goals from 2012 to 2016. Seconded by Mr. Gignac. Mr. Leary.
Thank you, Mr. Gignac, for seconding my motion. I truly appreciate it. I think it's self-explanatory. It's important that we get our goals out not only to ourselves or individually, but to the public. And speaking of websites, this is an area where our goals should be defined for the public. And working with your staff, the committee, and the entire school community to develop a direction where we're going. I think a lot of folks understand, especially the teachers in their classroom, what their objectives are. But I think the overall mission of what we are, where we need to be, and how we're going to get there is important. So I thank everybody for entertaining this time. Thanks.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have a motion by Kim Scott and Connie Martin requesting that the administration work with Aramark to develop a more timely and accurate billing system for parents for breakfast and lunch purchases, and to confirm appropriate firewall protections for all student data to ensure that only required program information is accessible. This doesn't require a second. Ms. Martin, Ms. Scott?
Thank you. I made this motion after receiving numerous phone calls and emails from parents, and just in passing. It's the most common thing that's been brought to me, honestly. There's 3 concerns that have been brought up over and over again. The first one is the amount that children are allowed to go negative, how large the negative balance is. The turnaround time for notices to be sent out, some of them 5 months, 6 months, they've received notices. And the third one was the turnaround time for the free and reduced lunch applications, that they said they haven't heard back from them. So those were the 3 concerns that I'd like to see addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much. I think that certainly, I would suspect everyone in this committee has been hearing those concerns, particularly around parents who are getting bills over many, many months that they're not expecting, and that they, it come as a total shock because their child is enjoying the pizza at school and that parent is not aware of it. I have to believe that there's a way we can streamline that process so that we can get parents the information in a much more timely way, and resolve that part of the issue. One of the other things that had come up, and this really was a result of an email communication that the committee had received through our city system, which, by way of an encouragement, we should let people know that we really do read those emails, and in many cases, they do lead to changes here in the Lowell Public Schools. In this particular case, there was some concern expressed by a parent that there seemed to be, information regarding their student, academic information, other information that really would have no bearing on their, on the Aramark information that they would need. And I think it did bring up an issue that we need to constantly be aware when we're upgrading our systems, when we're making changes to databases and doing all this work that's meant to make our systems more efficient. We always need to remain aware of how we're protecting that information. Any information we collect, we're responsible for protecting it. And I think that it is definitely a need-to-know kind of situation. We have a lot of information that no one has any need to know, and we need to protect that. So I would just like to ask, as the administration is working with Aramark, I know they've been great partners, and that they continue to be, so I'm very confident we'll be able to resolve these issues. But really, I think the 2 key things are improving the administration of these billing problems, and then also how we're taking a look at our technology, at the firewalls we have in place to ensure that only appropriate information is being shared, not just with Aramark, but with any of our other contracted companies that we're working with. So I think it gives us a good opportunity to review this in the larger sense as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have under subcommittees, Finance Subcommittee. As I'm sure you're all aware, Mr. Leary gave a memorable report on February 1st, and so all we need right now is approval of the minutes of
Motion to
February
approve the
1st.
minutes.
Motion to approve his own minutes by Mr. Leary, seconded by Mr. Gignac. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have the Personnel Subcommittee, a report and approval of the minutes of the meeting of Thursday, February 9th, 2012, with Ms. Connie Martin as chair.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, this will take much longer than Mr. Leary's. Personnel Subcommittee did meet on Thursday, February 9th. Present were myself and other members of the subcommittee, Mr. Conway and Ms. Scott. From the rest of the school committee, we also had Mayor Murphy, Mr. Gignac, and Mr. Leary. And from the school department administration, we had Superintendent Franco, Deputy Superintendent Lang, and Assistant Superintendents Claire Abrams. And also we were joined by Ann Murphy for the next meeting that evening. We did discuss a number of different things, so I will try to go through it fairly as succinctly as I can. And I would recommend that at the end, we perhaps do a motion to accept all the actions of the committee as well as the minutes, rather than having to do each individual one. But if there is anything that people have concerns about, please just throw a hand up in the air and we'll stop and consider it. First was a presentation by Fred Abbasi, who's the director of our adult education department. He's hoping to take 2 positions that he has within his department right now and expand them from part-time positions to full-time positions. We're looking at an ESOL registrar and also for an adult education student facilitator. Both of these positions are currently part-time. Within the same adult ed budget line, they will be able to absorb taking both these positions to full-time status. A registrar is really just that, the person who's responsible for doing the bulk of the database work, data entry, maintaining all of the systems for the well over 5,000 individuals who go through this program, whether it's both the English as a second language as well as our GED programs. And then also the adult education student facilitator really serves in the role of a guidance counselor, working with each individual adult student as they're going through this process, ensuring that they're successful in their education, and also helping them to make appropriate connections within the community to ensure that their family as a whole is successful here. So that was our first action on adult education. Next, we received a request from the early childhood programs at the Lowell Public Schools asking to take a part-time social worker position and shift it to a full-time social worker position. Again, they have money within their own discrete budget to manage that expansion. And as the presentation they gave to us, it's very clear that we have a huge need to increase the resources we have to direct at our youngest students as they're preparing to come into the Lowell Public Schools. This social worker position has done a great deal to help establish early literacy efforts within the homes and in some of our partner community-based agency daycare centers. The attendance monitor position, this is a recommendation that came to us from Deputy Superintendent Lang. Really more of an oversight than anything else. Over the course of the last few years, we have very few part-time professional positions really within the district. One of them is our attendance monitor. This is an individual who's been in the position for quite a long time, and because of his part-time status was not included in any of our collective bargaining agreements with the administrators union. So very nicely, he went along and has been doing his job all these years, and his rate has gotten dramatically out of sync with the other administrators in our district. This individual will remain a part-time position. There's no interest in bringing it to a full-time position, but we are looking to take the salary from a $25.24 per hour rate to the current rate for administrators of $32.50 per hour. Basically, that makes a difference going from about $24,000 on the budget to this in the for a full year, it would calculate out at $31,000. So that was also approved by the subcommittee. An additional position, our superintendent has been working very closely with the burgeoning Burmese population here in our city, and I think a very legitimate and I think encouraging request was in their conversations. It came to they came around to the idea of really the Lowell Public Schools bringing on a Burmese parent liaison. We have parent liaisons throughout our district. They serve a multitude of purposes. This, I think, is an opportunity for us to work with a very new population that we're all still learning about, and ensuring that they get the support services that will help them be successful. Our coordinator of English language education programs, this is a new position, but to be clear, it will be the result of eliminating another position. Basically, we're going to be taking and I'm trying to find the title. The original title, Madam Superintendent, was outreach, community outreach, and clearly something that stayed with you, because it's totally left my mind. I just want to be able to reference, thank you.
Sorry? Yes, it is absorbing the position of specialist for community outreach in support of English language learners and families.
Yeah.
So it's taking the existing positions within
Eliminating
that
that from the budget.
organization and then moving, after,
Exactly.
of course, having it posted and whatnot, moving
Perfect.
people into the position.
So this will be replacing that position. It's, I think, a very flexible move, and I think we all appreciate that. That at midway during a school year, we're able to recognize that there is a need that's growing, that's becoming more and more important. And this coordinator of English language education, I think, is something that we can. I think we're all looking forward to seeing some real results from, and certainly we appreciate the staff members' flexibility and willingness to take on this new challenge. And then our final topic was our preliminary introduction to the evaluation process that's going to be implemented here in the city of Lowell and across our Commonwealth. The Merkland School, our Level 4 school, is really where all the action is happening with this right now. In terms of our teachers and administrators, but we've also, as a committee, will be using the same process for evaluating our superintendent. So it is, we all received the paperwork. I think it's impressive, but I also think it represents a real serious change for us, and it's going to take our evaluation to a whole new level. I welcome that. I know our superintendent welcomes that as well. But it is certainly going to be a situation where this entire committee will be called on to do a great deal of work to offer, I think, what will be hopefully a very substantive and instructive evaluation. So look forward to that. So that, my friends, is, I would submit that as a report of progress and would ask for the full school committee to vote to approve all of the motions that were in the minutes represented by the subcommittee's approvals.
Any further discussion? Okay, so we have a motion to accept the report as a report of progress, approve the minutes of the February 1st meeting, or February 9th meeting, and adopt the recommendations of the subcommittee. Motion by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Conway. Roll call, please.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
7 yeas, accepted.
Next, we have the Curriculum Subcommittee report and approval of the minutes of the meeting of Thursday, February 9th, 2012. Ms. Connie Martin.
Thank you very much. And because our personnel subcommittee was so quickly run, we decided to go right into curriculum, beginning at 7:30 that same evening. Present at the meeting were myself and subcommittee members, Mr. Leary and Ms. Scott. Also present from the school committee were Mayor Murphy and Ms. Ross Sikowicz. From central office, we had Superintendent Franco, Assistant Superintendent Claire Abrams, and interim coordinator for school improvement, Edith LeBron. We had a number of different topics again, starting off with, and I would again make the same recommendation, I think we should be able to get through all of these topics and just be able to accept them as a report of progress. First was an update. We did, the school committee did approve, I think, a significant reorganization for our curriculum office several months ago before the start of school. And our assistant superintendent for curriculum, Ms. Abrams, was able to share with us, I think, some of the real successes we're seeing as part of this. The team that has been built really is able to get out into the district, is doing some very important work, particularly around the Common Core, which is the new initiative here in the district. I think one of the key kind of phrases that really stood out to me as we were having this meeting was the whole idea that when we're working in a standards environment, it's not a matter of rigor really looking like more. Rigor really looks like going deeper. It's a matter of taking those same standards and being able to really wring out everything that's in them, as opposed to trying to speed through topic areas. And I think that was one of the key things that certainly has struck me over the years in terms of being able to determine quality. That's, I think, one of the key things. So overall, we've been looking at some real improvements in our curriculum effort. We also did talk about the Race to the Top initiatives, a number of different projects. We did talk about the statewide educator evaluation, as I had mentioned previously at the Merkland. We are working to put that in place. It is a process that's driven by SMART goals, that's very assessment driven, I think, and that will really go a long way towards giving us some very substantive information about the quality of teaching and administration in this school that we'll then be able to really extrapolate and use across the district, which I think is going to be very valuable for us. Second project was aligning curriculum to Massachusetts curriculum frameworks, ensuring effective teachers and leaders in every classroom, which certainly seems like a good idea. The project really is focused around curriculum alignment, taking both in terms of literacy and mathematics, and really working with our mathematics coordinators, K through 8 at this point, to continue that work. It's something that is ongoing in terms of the alignment process. It takes a great deal of time, but we are moving forward. The real-time work towards installing a real-time access in terms of our data is something that, you know, when we look at it's called the School Interoperability Framework, which is a brutal name, just in case anyone's reading it. But it really, you know, it's one of those things, it's a tool that will be as good as the information is that we put in it. So we really are, at this point, the state office, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, is working with some smaller districts right now, I think, which is wise to roll this out before they take on some of the larger districts. So it is something that has the potential, I think, to have some real value for us in terms of the immediacy of information, assessment information, but we're early on, so we'll be working on that over the course of time. Looking at the next topic was the percentage of high school graduates who are completing the Mass Core. A very fundamental, I think, and very basic expectation when we're talking about students needing 4 years of mathematics, 3 years of science. I think those are, you know, kind of the bar to reach, and the bulk of our students really should be over and above that. But there is a baseline that it's important for us to be aware of, and Mass Core really is the state standard. So, and then looking at some of the district-wide core issues, this was, I think, a key area where we were talking about some of the interventions that are going on in our schools, and our intervention strategies across the district have been extremely effective, and I think it's great to see that we're still working on it. We're still experimenting to make sure that they can be as effective as possible. One of the key ones, the level literacy intervention, also the Lexia, which is at the middle school level. These do give opportunities for students, whether some are in pull-out situations, some are just your standard interventions over the course of a teaching session. And then we talked about Children Discovering Justice and Seeds of Science, Roots of Reading. These are some different curriculum programs that have been placed into our district that are offering our students, I think, some great information and have been tied into our standards pretty effectively. Also in that kind of category, we have our First Steps in Mathematics, which is a series of books, resource books that our teachers are using, and Language with an Exclamation Point, which is a middle school reading program. I think the key, and particularly as we talk about these different systems that we're putting in place, really are that they're part of an overall effort district-wide to ensure that we have the right materials in the hands of the right teachers working with the right students, so that everybody's getting what they can out of these tools. And again, like everything else, they're only as good as they're utilized. So we've made some investments, I think, in having these materials, and the key, as always, is the teachers who are using them and how effectively they're using them, and making sure that they have the teachers have all the supports they need to be effective. So I'm going to submit that as my report of progress. I would encourage my colleagues who are in attendance, if I've missed anything, certainly feel free to jump in.
I don't imagine you have. Motion by,
Oh, see, I was pretty quick.
motion by Ms. Martin to accept as a report of progress, seconded by Mr. Gignac. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have the Joint Facilities Subcommittee with City Council. Report of the meeting of Wednesday, February 15, 2012. Mr. Leary.
Thank you, Mayor. In attendance was everybody from the school department, basically the entire school committee, the mayor, the entire administration, and a lot of and Brian Curley and other folks, some head custodians, et cetera. From the city side, a large portion of their administration as well, in particular DPW director, as well as Mr. Green. a good portion of folks came to the meeting. It was also jointly chaired by Councilor Ed Kennedy, Councilor Broderick, and Councilor Mendonça were in attendance. The premise of the meeting, joint meeting, revolved around the current status of the school buildings. There was a three-part agenda to it. The first part was looking at our current work orders in terms of the duplication or the ones that weren't completed. The second issue was discussion about the city Lowell stat or work stat in terms of how that could incorporate an improvement to our current work order status. In that particular issue, what was decided, an agreement that the school administration would share with the city side, city administration, the current work orders and work with the DPW to provide the council exactly where we are today with our work orders, what was outstanding, what were duplicates, and then at that point, we would convene to have an action plan to address that particular activity. The second part of the motion was a suggestion from the city manager to put the school's capital plan in order and hand it over to the cities so they can incorporate it in their upcoming budget year. This is something that the city manager and I, as well as Mr. Gignac, in a tour of the high school a couple of weeks ago, had started a discussion about how can we fix some of our issues that we have, from HVAC issues, K-12, through roof issues, K-12, and runs the gamut. And he made a strong suggestion that we incorporate the capital plan so he can work on that project. And I think having the city manager come through the high school and take a look at some of the issues that we're discussing was of high value. And Mr. Mayor, I just want to thank you for taking the time to work to help him to come to the high school. I think that was very much appreciative. There's a lot of activity. The meeting was not adjourned, the meeting was recessed, because we're going to recess again to have another joint meeting in another month to have a further discussion to see exactly where we are with our steps and develop further action plans. There was one motion that came through at the end of the meeting. It was specific to the school committee and to the administration, and I'll read it as follows. It was a motion by Mr. Gignac and second by Ms. Ross-Sikowicz. It was to recommend, and I make this as in the form of a motion, it was to recommend to the full school committee that the superintendent and the staff review the current City of Lowell capital plan to prioritize the current school department-related projects for consideration for the beginning part of March. And then I guess in addition or in further was that the superintendent and her staff would evaluate additional projects for consideration for inclusion in future capital plans during the spring of 2012. I know it's a lengthy motion, but it essentially came down to getting a capital plan from the schools incorporated into the city plan so we have one plan. And I think that was the real general premise of I don't know, I guess as a form of a motion, so I guess I need a second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Leary, as read, to integrate the capital plans of the school department and the city. Seconded by Mr. Gignac. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Mr. Leary.
I'll just end by saying, I guess the idea of the council and the city administration as well as the school is really to break down the walls that are there for our facilities. We're one city, and I'm very appreciative of the leadership on the council and the mayor for coming to this meeting, and I'm appreciative that we're in recess and we'll be holding more meetings, and we'll be having another one in a month. Thank you. And I guess there's a motion for report of progress as well.
Break down the walls and fix them too. Motion by Mr. Leary to accept the report as a report of progress, seconded by Ms. Ross-Sikowicz. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have the reports of the superintendent. Quarterly report on motions. Any discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In your packet, you will see the outstanding motions of the Lowell School Committee. Many of them are in progress, or there are a number of action steps that have taken place over time. A couple of them have ongoing reports that committee members who are still here with us want ongoing work to be checked in on. But if you look at the highlighted in yellow motions, we feel as a administration that we have completed those particular motions. And I ask if any of the members have any questions or believe there are some that should not be removed, because it is usually practice that we would take those motions off this particular list and add all our new ones. So in the future, I am looking to have a better system for how you know how these motions are evolving, so they do not take the exorbitant amount of time. So that's what I will ask for your review, if at this particular point we can remove the yellow.
Mr. Gignac and then Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the superintendent. Motion number 28 by former committeeman John Leahy to request the acting city clerk set up a meeting with the school committee, subcommittee on facilities and the city council side as well. I think we can take that off now as a result of tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Gignac.
You're welcome, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Conway.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the superintendent, where the status has, there's nothing in the box there. What's the status of that? Is it we haven't started on that, or is it, I mean, for example, if you go to page, I think it's page 3, or page 2, for example, number 16, there's nothing next to the status, and number 19, 20, 21, 23, and so forth. Is that?
Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Conway. Some of these that don't have status reports, I have passed on to other departments. So any of the ones that have blanks, those are the ones I anticipate looking at right away. For instance, there are some that have to do with Lowell High School, all of the technology, particular motions at the end, certain ones, and I'm going to be really honest, because they're motions from former members, I'm really strategizing on how, and so if there's nothing for the next time we get together, and I hope it's not even going to be a quarter, I will have another action step, because it is my intention to have anything that's standing from the prior committee taken care of by at least our March meetings, just so I can look at it. So if they're not there, they will be on upcoming Lowell High subcommittee meetings or the technology CELT study, and the other tricky ones I'm going to try and develop a plan for. So I'm just going to be honest about it. It's time gone by, and it's kind of, the issue has gone by, but I don't know if the question's truly answered, and it's never my intention not to answer the gist of the motions that are brought by the Lowell School Committee. So I have to do some thinking on the others, to be honest.
I appreciate your honesty, and some of these motions, to be quite frank with you, go back a while ago. So again, I don't expect all of them to be done right away. I'm just wondering what that status might be on it. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Ms. Martin and then Ms. Roth-Sidgwich.
Thank you very much. Really in that same vein as Mr. Conway was commenting, there are just two that I would just like, if I could, to ask for some particular attention to. Looking at number 21 and at number 37, in my mind, these both tie to our upcoming Lowell High subcommittee meeting. I know that we haven't been able to schedule anything until March, so I understand that. One of the key things that we were discussing was the development of the syllabi for all of our programs. I know we were supposed to receive copies of a lot of stuff that we never got. I understand that with the meeting not being scheduled until March. I can understand why that, didn't rise to the forefront. But I would like, if we could, to ensure that staff are all aware that the expectation is at that March meeting, which is when they had asked for the time, that they'll be able to provide us with the syllabi for every single course, all the standards that will be addressed by it, all the indications of rigor that will be present at every single level. Because I think that without that, it's really, we've been talking about this for a long time. I think getting something down on paper that we can actually point at would be particularly helpful at this point.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Ms. Roth-Sidgwich.
Thank you. I also think it would be beneficial for those motions that the superintendent has delegated off to staff to work on, if it would be possible to have some kind of timeline in place so that we know when to expect some kind of report. And if there's some type of barrier that your staff, you and your staff are running into, that perhaps it's something that the committee can step in and deal with and from a policy level. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Scott?
One more. I have a question about number 8 about the Lyceum, John Leahy's motion. And the motion was to improve, expand, or grow the program. And it says it was reported out on 10/19/11. Was there a plan for expanding and growing the program? I just don't remember. I've been following the meetings before
Madam
I was
Superintendent?
elected.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that we discussed all of these possibilities, and at that particular time, the funding wasn't such that we thought about expanding. Mr. Leahy's point at the particular time was making sure that we fill all the seats we possibly can, but we did not get to any kind of budgetary expanding, making the program bigger. So that was looked into, but there was no public commitment to put more funding into it, so that's how it kind of ended. But we did discuss it, and we went through many different discussions on all those noted dates. So at that particular point, that's how it somewhat stopped.
Okay. Through you,
Ms. Scott.
Mr. Mayor, to Superintendent Franco. But was there a discussion at that time, I thought, about increasing the 8th grade, enrollment in the exam itself? And has that been done? I thought that happened at that time, that discussion. And I think there were less children that took the exam this year.
Yes, the outreach, the outreach was still the same. They went to all the schools, they made the inroads to the private schools like they normally do with the Lyceum-type test. According to Dr. Jack, who I asked her about the number of tests were taken, she said that the tests were taken, but that it was at a lower level, and she wasn't quite sure if it was because of the kind of public exposure at the time, but she said that there were less tests taken at that particular time. So I'm not sure. I have not seen yet the report that we normally get. It's coming very soon. I'm sure for the Lowell High Subcommittee meeting will be ready of how many young people will be entering that program. But I do believe that the participation rate was not as high as it had been in the past.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Mr. Lang?
Just quickly, on the top of page 4, number 29, if you wanted to remove that one, I just reported out verbally at the meeting when it was presented that the former secretary had given us all of the minutes. We have them in our possession. I didn't do a written report, but if you want to remove that one as well, that one's done.
Anyone have a yellow highlighter? If there's no further discussion, we entertain a motion to accept this report of progress by Mr. Conway, seconded by Mr. Gignac. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Oppose? So voted. Next, we have tutoring services for Lowell High School. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, way in January, beginning of the year, we had been out of funding for the services and the AM and PM sessions at the library, tutoring services at Lowell High School. Because the Shannon grant was not distributed at that particular time, Lowell High School has found out that by March, the grant came into the LPD, and then they will be able to set up the accounts, but it's at a lesser rate. So I had asked Headmaster Rose Merrick for a plan, because the funding that you had okayed had been used. So at this particular time, there is a request and a report of how the funds will be used by Headmaster Rose Merrick for the Shannon. The Shannon grant will not commence, so he's asking for $7,200 to be taken out of the resources that we had asked, that they had asked for a lead teacher in fine arts and a lead teacher in hospitality. They did not hire those two positions, and they are asking if that funding can be now in fact moved to support the tutoring until the Shannon grants are set up. So that's the request when I did ask the headmaster for the next steps. I also have directed the headmaster to look at how much this key service that all of us have fought for over years. We've always found the funding to open the school up in the morning and to provide technology resources to our young people, that if this is a critical function, a core function of the high school, that where does it belong in the local budget? You can't depend on these ancillary grants if they come, when they come, that should not be how we handle something so important. And so that has been my directive, so I would expect that as we're going through the budgeting processes, that maybe Shannon can be used for some of it, but we can't anticipate this core function to not be in our local budget. So I did ask about that in a recommendation for that particular place. So I ask for your support on the headmaster's request.
Any discussion on the request? Mr. Gignac?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the superintendent. I'm noticing that we approved $5,000 for a little over a month of tutoring services, and now we're going to look to approve $7,200 for about the same amount of time. Just curious as to why. Thank you.
I think we overestimated at this particular point because the Lowell Police Department is setting up that grant. And so I'm not exactly sure if the timeline, when they start telling us that we can we can use the money for hourly rates. And so my priority was to make sure that during MCAS season and during all this high academics, that there was I asked the headmaster for a plan through April vacation, to be really honest with you, because I'm depending on another entity in the Lowell Police Department to come forward. So that was my rationale. Now, if in fact this funding is not used, it's going to be a surplus in our budget, in our high school budget, but truthfully, I did not want to come back to you in 3 more weeks and say, oops, it's not enough money. And so I was trying to look at a strategic kind of thought until I'm sure if, in fact, the Shannon money is going to be utilized for that, which I believe it is, and when, in fact, we're going to have that money. So that's my reasoning.
Thank you. Mr. Leary?
Yeah, Mr. Gignac asked one of the questions that I was looking at, Mayor, so I appreciate it. I guess the other one is, we have 2 positions we didn't fill. I guess you don't have to answer this now, but how many other positions that we budgeted for haven't we filled? I guess when we go through the budget process, that's something that we need to take a look at and see what the expectations are or what the needs are and making sure those needs are met. If we didn't need a lead teacher in hospitality, then we probably shouldn't have budgeted for a hospitality lead teacher. Not a lot of money, but at the end of the day, if there was, we've been squirreling away money for 2 years for technology so we can make some major purchases. Maybe we can squirrel some more money in other areas as well. But I'm definitely, we have to support it because the tutors are definitely needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the request? Entertain a motion to approve by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Ross-Sikowicz. Roll call, please.
Ms. Martin? Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross-Sikowicz?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
7 yeas approved.
Next, we have the Lowell Alternative Diploma Program update. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was a request when we were in creating the alternative diploma program in collaboration with the UTEC organization that you wanted to have biannual progress reports, and this will serve as the first one. In this report, Assistant Superintendent Murphy has provided us a good deal of information about what's happening with the progress of the program to date. The student enrollment has risen. There were about 7 students, I believe now they're up to 18. 2 children have graduated. We're trying to expand that. So it's going to eventually get to 35, but they're still hiring teachers and the director. So at this particular point, we have there has been an appointed director who is with us this evening. Zainab is here, and she's a certified administrator, and she has taken over the program because the funding for this program for the position of director is such that it is not having a draw of people who want to stay. I think it's about $45,000 to $50,000 for that particular position. So getting somebody to make that full-time commitment that is of the caliber we want has been a little complicated. They have interviewed many people and are looking for the right fit for that particular position. So that's part of the work here. If you look and see what the difference to the programs are on the next page, it's clearly stated what happened before. It's a full-day program or extended day program at UTEC. There's all-day instruction, there's transitional coaches so they can help the children, and the director will be in touch with the high school and the LPS, Zainab, as well as a team from Ann Murphy's Student Support Service Office have been actively involved in making sure the curriculum and all the things happening are of the highest quality. The slowness of hiring has been challenging, but they still have the program up and running, and children are going every day and meeting the needs of the curriculum. Budgetarily, if you look at the last page, and I will ask Ann for all of the details because she knows it so well, you'll see all of the particular budget requests, what's happening. There were some other budget funding sources that we were supposed to have gotten that did not come through, private funding. So we were at a disadvantage. This particular report is asking for a request to use some of the funding for the supplies because other funding didn't come through. And I will ask Mrs. Murphy to make that request come to life because she knows it in great detail. So I'll ask Ms. Murphy if she can comment.
As you can see from the report, not all of the $200,000 that was approved by the committee is going to be used this year. Specifically, the money, we were targeting the money for staff, and because it's taken us so long to get the staff on board, we will not be using all of the money. As the superintendent has said, a private funding source, Root Cause, did not come through as anticipated. So what we're asking is if we could take some of the unused money from the $200,000 that the school committee approved for the program and use that money for instructional technology, some materials, and some supplies as sort of one-time startup monies to get the program really up and running. We will not be using all of the $200,000 that the school committee had allocated for the program for this year. If we do get the approval to use some of the money for the instructional technology, I believe there'll be about $30,000 that we won't be using.
Thank you, Mrs. Murphy. Any discussion on the request? Ms. Martin?
Thank you. Can I just ask, so, the original configuration for this would have been, and I'm just, kind of guessing at this as looking at this budget, that maybe not 100%, but, a significant portion of this was initially allocated towards personnel, right? So now we're looking at from the $200,000 that was allocated initially that should have been primarily spent on personnel. We're now talking about spending $85,000 of that on personnel and then $85,000 on purchases. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. That's accurate. And if the program continues and we continue to get the funding for next year, the money that will be allocated will be just for staff.
But that's what it would have been anyway.
That's what it would have been this year, had we been able to start the program when we had intended to.
One of the biggest concerns, looking at $50,000 for instructional technology, we're doing a district-wide technology audit. We're making decisions, for across the district on these things. I don't feel comfortable making these decisions, kind of off to the side. It seems like that should be part of the overall activity. And that, $85,000 is a big outlay in expendable materials for the most part. Taking out that instructional technology part of it. So, I do have concerns about it, and I don't know if we can I don't know what the next step would be.
Mr. Gignac and then Ms. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking at these numbers, and were we expecting more than 18 students to be enrolled by this point in the year?
Yes, the plan was, going back a few years, we've had this program for several years, and it has always been a part-time program, so that our Lowell High School teachers teach students after school hours, so from 3 to 6. Given some changes in the Malloy School program and our need to expand alternative options, our plan for this year was to take that alternative diploma program and expand it to a full-day program, actually an extended day program, so that it would be a combination of the educational piece, aligning with the high school curriculum, along with some workforce development that UTEC would be providing. And our hope was to expand the program so that it would accommodate 30 to 35 students. Because of the lag time in hiring a director and then getting teachers on board, we haven't been able to start it soon enough. So we've started to refer students, and, you know, our hope is that by the end of the school year, we will be up to the 30 students.
Thank you. One more question while I have the mic. The technology that you're looking to purchase, or the supplies of that nature, is that going to be used on-site or at UTEC? And if so, are we going to be getting that back at the end of this program, say if it was not to be refunded in the future?
The technology will be used at the school site, which is at UTEC. Our students are not in our schools. They're out to the UTEC program. So that would be part of the school setup. I hope that the program will continue beyond this year, because I certainly see that we do have a need for alternative education for especially those 10th, 11th, and 12th grade students.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Scott.
I actually had a similar question about the enrollment numbers. And our report that's ongoing right now with the technology, I had concerns with the enrollment numbers, with the amount spent for technology and the equality, you know, across the district. So, thank you. You already
Thank you.
answered it with
Mr.
Robert. Thank you.
Mr. Leary and then Ms. Ross.
So I think, and I might miss what Ms. Scott said, but I guess ultimately what we should probably do is put this into like one purchase with the technology subcommittee. So if you said that, I apologize for repeating what you just said. This, if I remember this correctly, this was actually going to save us money, because we were going to get extra money from Chapter 70 and have additional students with the alternative program. And that's exactly what, so the point we're making at this point, at this time, is it's not as fast as we had envisioned it. Okay.
The program just didn't start
Okay.
as soon as we had anticipated that it would.
Okay.
You know, we had anticipated that the money that the school system allocated would be used for the staffing, for the full-time teachers, for the coordinator, and we would have started much sooner than this. And that's what the money would be
But the
used for.
financial premise was more students.
But we're looking to keep the students on our rolls.
Yeah.
And part of our October 1st, you know, have an impact on our dropout rate.
Yeah.
And start recovering some of the students. And when we recover them, we then put them back on our rolls.
And I think if I remember correctly, it was also costing us less money to do it in this method.
Absolutely.
Okay, which was was like a twofer. The only thing, I guess, to follow up with Mr. Gignac, say we don't fund the program, these are our, if we do make purchases, they're our equipment, that's our technology, or are we giving it for them, I guess is the bottom line. So we're giving, I guess the question,
Mr. Lang.
Thank you. The way the contract is structured now, you're contracting with them for services or equipment that wouldn't return to you at the end of the contract under the current terms. If you wanted to get the equipment back, if the program weren't to be funded, you'd need to do some kind of an amendment to the contract, have there be some kind of an agreement that specified the product would come back to you. But this would actually, the asset would reside with the vendor. It wouldn't come back to us under the current contract.
just to follow up, I guess I supported this program when we did it, because I thought, obviously, it still does have a lot of potential from economic value as well as educational value, but I think we need, before we make purchase for technology, I think we need to roll this into a full technology plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ross Sikowicz.
My question was answered. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. Any further discussion on the request?
Do we need a motion to put this back to the technology subcommittee? Is that,
Okay.
I'll make a motion to refer this to technology subcommittee for further review.
Motion to refer this back to the Technology Subcommittee by Mr. Leary, seconded by Mr. Conway. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have a report on home education. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Murphy. There is a family that is seeking permission to educate their child at home. Wendy and Brian Von Connie Nenberg are requesting that they add an additional child to be homeschooled, which will make our total number of homeschooled students 49, with 26 families involved.
Any discussion on the request? Motion to approve by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Ms. Ross Sikowicz. Roll call, please.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Thank you. Under new business, we have a memorandum of understanding with Middlesex Community College Dental Hygiene Education. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Murphy. This is a report submitted to us by Assistant Superintendent Ann Murphy. She is looking for us to continue the work that has been done in our partnership with Middlesex Community College, who provide dental sealants and fluoride treatments to our second grade students. There are only over 700 children have participated in this particular program and received this service, and Ms. Murphy is requesting for us to continue our partnership and look at the 2-year MOA that will be provided at the next school committee meeting.
Mr. Gignac.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Ms. Martin. Roll call, please. Oh, excuse me. Did you want to speak on it?
Very quickly say thank you very much. I mean, this just is an exceptionally good representation of the kind of partnerships that we've had. This kind of opportunity for our students who may not have any other exposure to dental treatment, I think, is spectacular. The fact that Middlesex is able to work with us to provide that to them is of huge benefit to our families. And certainly we'll be looking forward to signing a new MOA and continuing this service for our children. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Martin? Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Next, we have convention and conference requests. First, we have an overnight field trip request. 8 Lowell High School Student Council representatives and the Student Council Advisor, Tom Thornton, to take part in the 2012 Massachusetts Association of Student Council Workshop on Wednesday, March 7th through Friday, March 9th, 2012 in Hyannis, Massachusetts. The total cost not to exceed $3,000 will be paid by the Lowell High School Student Activity Funds. No substitute teacher is needed. Next, we have
Motion, if we can make a motion to take all these at one.
motion by Mr. Leary to take all these items at once, seconded by Mr. Gignac. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Mr. Gignac.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve all of these at once by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Mr. Conway. Roll call, please.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Next, we have communications. Informational, Lowell Telecommunication, Channel 10 broadcast of school committee meetings live on the first and third Wednesdays of the month, Thursdays at 9 p.m., Sundays at 2 p.m., and Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Motion to accept the communication. Excuse me, Ms. Scott. I didn't know if you had a further communication. Keep in mind, it'll be replayed all these times, so. Motion by Ms. Scott, seconded by Mr. Leary to accept the communications. Next, we have, under adjournment section of the agenda, motion by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Mr. Leary. We stand adjourned.